Hello, pastors. Welcome back to another episode of the Soup of the Day podcast. I'm so excited to be with some really cool friends here from Gainesville, Kelly and Tracy Ward. Kelly, they pastor Element Church in Gainesville, and you have been in Georgia for how long now?
Just a little over 2 years.
2 years. Okay. And so I'm going to put you on the spot, but compared to other districts you've been a part of, this is your favorite, right?
That's right. And
Okay.
And I watched and listened to all of the podcasts, and you ask all of the somewhat newbies the same question.
Yes.
So I was prepared to say yes to that question.
Thank you. Did you practice on the way down?
I didn't practice, but I knew it was coming.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, it goes without saying that, that this is
we love
our favorite district, but we love having you here, and the incredible things that are happening at Element Church in Gainesville, and just the way you have led so well. The challenges that you've been able to overcome, the mountains that you've had to climb there, and just seeing God bring to fruition all that hard work, and you guys being on that upward slope right now and in growth. I'm excited about that. You are doing a fantastic job, and this is one of the stories that we need to be sharing with our other pastors around here to just help motivate and encourage you that you can take a situation that needs strong leadership and see God use that situation to reach people in your community with the good news. And I'm excited about all the new homes that are being built around you guys. And so literally God is bringing families to your doorstep to be ministered to. And so I rejoice in what he is doing. And then also too, what you are doing with foster care and advocacy for those that are needing foster care. And that's one of the reasons that I've got them here today, is to just talk about how you are allowing God to use that as a segue into the community and to bless those families that are in distress. What better time to minister to people when they are in incredible need? And so, Kelly, if you take a moment, tell us a little bit just about your background before we jump into that as well. How did you wind up in Georgia?
I sent a text to a guy named Mark Merrill.
Okay.
And I said, it's going to sound funny, but I can't get Georgia off my mind. I really feel that God is calling me there.
I don't know where.
There is a song about it. Right. Yeah, there is a song about it. But I couldn't. And I talked to my wife, and we just started talking about that. We're like, Georgia, everything's Georgia. We're supposed to be in Georgia. We didn't know how, why, where. And he kind of said, basically said, fly out here and let's hang out, let's visit. And that's how we landed in Georgia. And we absolutely love it. Wow. This is a wonderful district. This is a wonderful community. And we just love living here.
That is wonderful.
Great for our family.
And you as well, Tracy, got the kids here, and they seem to be doing very well.
They are thriving. Georgia's been so kind to them, and they love it. They consider this their home. And as a mom, I couldn't be happier.
That is wonderful. Wonderful. Well, how did you get involved in foster care and advocacy for those that are needing foster care?
Sure. Well, we started a long time ago after our oldest son was born. I remember sitting with him at home, and the Lord spoke to me about adoption, international adoption. And I was guns a-blazing at that point. He, on the other hand, was not quite there, and it took him a little longer to get there. And so we started on a journey of international adoption, and took us a really long time, but we met our son and our daughter, London and Sam, in Haiti. And after meeting them 4 years and 7 months later, we were able to bring them home after a lot of corruption and just a lot of crazy things that happened along the way. But God brought them home, and it just opened up my heart to vulnerable children, not only around the world, but here in our country as well. And
a 4-year journey on international adoption, that takes a lot of determination and faith.
It was very difficult. A lot of times we wanted to give up, but every time we would want to give up, the Lord would just show us a glimmer of hope. And we're so happy that he did.
That is incredible. And so that kind of opened your world up to foster care here in the States. And you guys are heavily involved there in Gainesville in that area, and that you're also using your ministry as a way to bless families and those that are in needs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when we came to Georgia, one of the first things I did was reach out to our local Department of Family and Children's Services. And I just said, we're moving here. Our church is available for whatever you need. At that point, we really didn't think we would be foster parents. We just wanted to advocate and help. And immediately I got a response from one of the regional directors of our region. And she said that they would love to meet. And so we met, and they came into our building. We hosted some events for them. We have been the only church to open up to them to host events in the entire state, according to them. And so without charging or anything like that. So we've had several events. Our first event, we had over 200 people attend. We have an event coming up in July where we have 80 kids that are in care signed up to come to give their foster parents a night out. So it's been great. But through that, we've had DFACS workers join our church. We've had foster families join our church. We are listed as a foster-friendly church on an app called Georgia Kids Belong. And we've had families find us through that. It's been amazing.
That is incredible. So tell me a little bit about this app. So DFACS and that organization and how they run it, they are searching for partners?
Oh, absolutely. It's a group called Georgia Kids Belong, and they advocate for the 400 children in Georgia that are legally free for adoption. It is of no cost to anyone to adopt these children. Their parental rights have been terminated, and they're just looking for homes for them. So they advocate, and they have an app. It's called a foster-friendly app, and it has discounts from restaurants or attractions across the state, and also lists places like churches that are foster friendly, that are open to foster families coming in, understanding trauma in children, and speaking about advocacy and all of those things for these kids in care.
What a journey, though. When you just mentioned that about understanding the trauma that they're going through.
Sure.
That is serious business because they have walked through a lot. And I know you probably can't share any stories that you're aware of, but those that are in the foster system, that's not an easy life.
It's not. A lot of times when children are taken into care, they're not even able to stay in their county because there's not enough homes for them. So they're taken 2 to 3 hours away where there's an open bed for them. Sometimes they're placed in group homes. Sometimes they're spending the night in hotels because there's nowhere for them to go. So we as a church have tried to advocate for, let's open up our homes. Let's tell of the need, because if you don't know, you can't help. And so by telling our congregation of the need, they're able to explore how they can help. Not everyone can open up their home,
sure,
but everyone can do something. We can certainly all pray. We can all provide respite, for a foster family, give them a couple of hours. We can provide a meal. So there's a lot of ways to get involved.
That is incredible. And you're using your church as a sort of as a hospice in a lot of ways for these families. And I think you have an event coming up that has the foster kids to give the foster families a night out.
Yep. The parents receive a gift card, and the kids will stay at the church for a few hours, and we'll have activities, and we'll have snow cones and all kinds of things for the kids to do.
What an incredible segue into your community. And I think you mentioned too that you've had members of DFACS come and begin attending.
We have.
And so not only are you ministering to the families and to the children, but those that are working with them as well.
Yes.
You're having an opportunity to minister.
Yes. And not only that, just a personal experience. We opened our home in January to be foster parents, and we received our first placement on January 19th of 4 littles, a 3-year-old, twin 2-year-olds, and a 1-year-old. And we have had them in our home, and they're about to go home to their dad, who's worked really hard to get them back. And not only is their dad attending our church, but his mom is attending our church. His aunt and cousins have started coming. The owners of the daycare where the children attend are now members of our church. Several of the daycare workers come to our church. So the power of that one yes, of us saying yes to these 4 little ones coming in one of the worst times of their lives, has opened up our church for all of these people and led them to the Lord.
Just take and marinate in that moment for just a minute.
Yes,
what
sir.
You just said, the power of that one yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That one yes. Now, that was a big yes, because I think how many kids was that?
We
four.
We took in 4. We already had 6 in the house.
Okay. All right. So chaos rules today.
Yes.
Right. And you said there were twins as
I
well?
had twin 2-year-olds and a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, all siblings. In most cases, siblings are separated. There aren't a lot of homes that can take in siblings. And so they're not only taken from their families, as dysfunctional as may be, it's still their home and their mom and dad and all they've known. But in so many times they're taken away from their siblings.
But look how that one big yes, and that was a big yes.
Yes.
And Kelly, I'm going to let you weigh in on that too, as part of that yes. But how that has translated into being able to minister in such a profound way, not just to them, but to everyone around them. That is incredible.
Right. So when I was out of town when she accepted those.
Oh,
and I got it.
All right.
But I came home and every day she was driving through 2 counties to take these kids to daycare. And I kept saying, I think you need to find something, a mile down the road, there's a daycare. I was looking at logistics. I was looking at mileage on a car. I was thinking how much money we're spending to taking these kids here. And I kept saying, well, there's got to be a closer place to take the kids rather than driving so far twice a day to take the kids to childcare, which is required for us to do that with DFACs. And she said, I haven't felt a release on that. I'm supposed to take them there. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. I was just looking logistically. I couldn't see the future because of the yes, because quite often we see the yes. Okay, we're helping some children in the house and we're loving on them and we're taking care of them and we're introducing them to the concept of Jesus and church. But I had no idea that my wife, every time she walked in the daycare, was going to the owner and saying, you should come to our church. The owner in her mind was saying, so with a smile, no, thank you, because she was not interested in church. But she never gave up. She continued to ask and ask and ask and ask, and they showed up, and their life has been changed because of it. And this coming Sunday, from the day that we're recording this coming Sunday, 3 of their family members, including the mom and dad, the owners, are being baptized because of the yes of saying, I will take a child into my home and I will teach them and train them in the time that I have. And I will adopt them for a moment.
Right.
Because that's what fostering is, adopting them for a moment. And I will take them into my home and into my blessing. And because of that, now the owners' lives are changed.
And they are being baptized.
They're being baptized this coming Sunday.
With their daughter.
With their daughter. Life changing just by the saying, yes, I will do something. It's going to be a major stretch to my life. It's going to be difficult. We already have 6 kids in our home, living in our home, bio and adopted kids. And this is going to now have 3 or 4 kids in a bedroom, and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be loud, and they're going to tear up things, but it's all worth it when you realize that you're going to lead a community to Christ and a family to Christ because of the opportunity of loving on some kids, and you build a relationship. And this doesn't always happen, but it's happened to us a few times now, that you're building a relationship with the bio dad or the bio mom or the bio grandmother. And in this one situation, we kept inviting the biological grandmother to come to our house. And she would come and she would be there for a few hours and play with the kids. And that wasn't always the easiest thing, but we allowed it to happen. And over time, now there is a relationship. Mm-hmm. And in this one particular family, there was a tragedy and a sudden death of a family member. So we opened up our church to them, and their entire family came into the church because we were there to support. And it all began with a child. It all began with opening up our building, our facility, and our hearts to a government agency and saying yes to them when they told us that every church says no, or that says, we need $10,000 for you to rent this room or whatever. We just said, no, we don't want money. We just want to love on you and to support you. And it's the power of the yes. I mean, we've heard that before, but when my wife says it, it just really resonates. I mean, the power of saying yes, because it's easy to say yes to things that benefit us, but it's difficult to say yes to things that are going to be a major challenge in our own life.
Absolutely.
And in our homes.
Yes.
And in our schedules.
So life is just turned upside down.
Sure.
But something you mentioned about it being difficult, but doesn't He, the Lord, give us the ability to do difficult things?
Sure does.
Especially leaving the 99 and going after the one, and that one being possibly a foster child who, you don't wind up in the foster system when situations are good.
Right.
You wind up there when they're coming out of a bad, difficult situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Typically. Mm-hmm. And so you're leaving the 99 and you're going after the one who is in distress, and a family that is in distress. And you've got all these circumstances around them, and yet, aren't we called to do that?
Absolutely.
Commanded to do that.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard. But if it was easy, everybody would do it. It is hard. But He gives us the ability to do hard things.
Yes.
And your yes was incredibly difficult. Now, I will say this funny that she sent you a text.
Yeah.
And did that.
Yeah, it wasn't that funny.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Ladies, if you're watching, don't do that. All right. But yeah.
Maybe you should.
Well, or maybe.
Yeah,
maybe she was smarter than the rest of us and knew I'm going to send him a text because I've already said yes. But here you've got it fast forwarding and translating into lives being changed. And that's what it's about. So let me throw this out there. I think sometimes we think in terms of we want people in the seats. So I want this ministry expression to result in people attending on Sunday. And that's good. We do. That's normal, natural.
Right.
Sure.
But I think the goal really should be in lives changed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So is that life being changed? Is that individual being ministered to? Are we preaching the gospel without words, but with acts of love and service and sacrifice? And for the children that you have in your home, they probably don't know what a healthy home even looks like.
Right.
And so with loving parents who are affirming and trying to build that in their life, man, you're taking a moment of their lives, but you're pouring an exponential amount of stuff into it. And we're hoping that it results in they're going to come to the church. We want them to be a part of a healthy congregation. But at the very least, lives are being transformed and changed.
Right.
That's right.
And that's the goal. And it is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. And I can only imagine how it's been on your biological kids.
It has been. And I will say they have stepped up. I'm so proud of all of them. They will come and grab a baby when a baby needs to be held or played with. Cool. And they're just remarkable kids. But to me, I want to pour into them so that when they're an adult, they will say yes. And they will make changes in their communities where they are. Because as a mom, that's what I want for them. I've done my job, then they're going to go and do those things in the world.
That's wonderful. And we have, I know just in us talking, numerous pastors in our district that have adopted and brought people into their homes, but they're, and that is so admirable and incredible that they are ministering to those that need mothers and fathers, that need a stable, healthy home. But then there's a next step that what you guys are doing here in this expression of, yes, it is a personal thing, but it's a ministry.
Yes.
To an entire community. I think you mentioned there are 400 kids that are available for adoption, right?
Yes. And as of this morning, because I checked this morning, there are 11,000 children in foster care in Georgia today, and there are not enough homes. And so we have to open our
11,000 in foster care.
Yes.
I think a lot of us could think of a community or a town in Georgia that is a town of a population of 11,000.
Certainly.
That's a small town.
Yeah.
It's a small town. It's an entire community.
I read a statistic last week that the amount of foster children in the United States would fill up the Braves Stadium 9 times.
Wow. What an incredible need.
Yes.
And, 100 years ago, the church was the answer.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, really, it was. America's changed a lot. Prior to the Great Depression, social services, homeless and needy and all those things, those services were provided by the church.
Right.
And during that season, it morphed over into the government providing those services.
Right.
And so what an opportunity for us to recapture
That's right.
that opportunity to minister to those that are in incredible amounts of need.
Yes.
I'm just thinking in the terms of 11,000, but just the 400 that are looking for homes. In Georgia, man, we have 189 churches.
Yes.
With hundreds of thousands of adherents, the Assemblies of God. And so, man, that need could be answered if we were to bind together and say, hey, you know what, let's be the answer for these and use it as a ministry outlet. So you're opening your building up for events with no strings attached.
Right.
None whatsoever. No. We come and volunteer.
Yeah, we come and volunteer. And occasionally there'll be another church in the community that will say, we want to come and volunteer and help out as well. There's no string that's attached because it's ministry.
Yeah.
This isn't the idea that we want to make some money off of somebody using our facility. It's the idea that we're going to see lives changed because we're inviting community into the facility that we've been given.
So that whole idea of sowing and reaping actually works.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're sowing, no strings attached. Hey, look, we want you to minister. And I think you just said that there are other churches that are wanting to come along. So we're provoking our brethren unto love and good works at the same time. So look what God is doing here. Hey, come along with us and see the fruit of this incredible labor, of which you will probably never see.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and that's fine.
But that's a kingdom principle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to sow seed in areas that I'll probably never.
That's right.
I will plant trees under which the shade I will never sit.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it because God's called us to be a light in a dark place. And so if you have a church who wants to, or a pastor who's watching, or a pastor's wife or a staff member who's watching and saying, man, I really want to be a part of this. How would they go about?
I would love to talk to anyone that wants to start a ministry in their church, or just give them the resources that we've found out along the way, just through trial and error of what has worked. There's such a need, and it's the most fulfilling. And a lot of people I've said the same thing. I could never do foster care because I'll get too attached. But if you don't get attached, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You're supposed to get attached to these kids.
Yes.
So,
wow.
Yes.
Let that sink in for a minute.
Well, let's just say if you don't get attached to the people in your church, how are you going to have an impact and influence? So you're going to need to get attached and really well connected to these children that you're loving on for a season, just like you do your biological children that are in your home.
Yeah, and that is hard when you do love very deeply for a season, and then that season changes.
Yeah.
And so, but again, going back to what I said earlier about God gives us the ability to do hard things.
Yes.
He also gives us the ability to love very deeply.
He does. He does.
And we're supposed to.
That love will conquer everything. I mean, God is love. And so for us to be able to pour love into these kids and have a healthy love, they're going to be able to reciprocate that in their lives. And, we're coming up on our kiddos that we've had for 6 months now leaving. And it's hard and it makes me sad. But I am thrilled that I get to see these kids grow up in my church. I'm going to get to see them every Sunday, and my role is going to be different. I'm not going to be mama to them, but a super cool aunt, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
The fun, super cool aunt.
Yeah. But I've been able to see this dad change his entire life and literally move heaven and earth to get his kids back. And there's really no greater feeling of seeing that happen for him.
But at the same time, we've had numerous kids come through our home that we've had for 24 hours or for a month that we've never met a bio parent, but yet we've loved on those children the same, and we are building memories of them. But again, it's not about us.
Right.
It's not about Kelly and Tracy. It's about the kids. It's about families, and it's about people that need Jesus.
It's about being the hands and feet.
Right.
Of Jesus and reaching those that are in need. And so if I know you're willing to help and coach
Anytime.
those if they in their local community? Is there a network where they can access information? Is there a website that they could go to? Anything along those lines?
You can reach out to your local Department of Children and Family Services, and they will welcome you and they will connect you with people. There are Georgia Kids Belong is a great organization that advocates for the children whose parental rights have been terminated. And there's also Promise 686, which will come into your church and help train you on how to connect with government officials. We also in the Assemblies of God have Backyard Orphans, that's a remarkable organization that's started, and they will come in and host workshops for your church, anything that you need.
Wow. Okay. So you are a wealth of information
I'm happy to
on
share.
that. And so hopefully maybe there's an email address or something that we can put in the lower
Absolutely.
third at the end of the podcast so that people can reach out to you. And of course, you're busy. You got a lot going on, but I know that you're passionate about that.
She is.
And it needs to be done. It needs to be done well.
Yeah.
And what an incredible opportunity for churches to reach people that are in need. So we've talked about what you're doing, and we talked a little bit about the why. Okay. But this is a huge thing for you guys to take on. And I know we're all a bunch of preachers in here, so we're going to say, I'm doing it for the Lord. We are, and we're doing it for the Lord. But going beyond that, what is your why? Why are you doing this?
I have had a mama's heart for as long as I can remember, and my kids will drive me batty. I'll be the first to admit it, but literally the thought of a child not having a parent is what keeps me awake at night. To know, I think of my kids out and not being able to navigate this world. Another thing that keeps me awake at night is that there are kids aging out of the foster care system, and 65% of them end up homeless because your services are done with the government when you turn 18. And so where do
when you
go?
turn 18, you're out?
And Georgia has done this really well. Georgia allows them, if they choose, to stay in care for 2 more years, but they have to attend school or have a full-time job. So Georgia's done that really well, but it's not like that in every state. And there is I think it's 55% end up incarcerated. 39% of girls aging out of the foster care system end up pregnant before they're 21. And for these kids going off to college, where do they come home for Thanksgiving? Where do they come home for Christmas and summer breaks? So these are the things that keep me up at night.
Wow.
And I believe the Lord will break our hearts for what breaks his, and his children, this breaks his heart. And so I think that is my drive.
That is incredible. Well, being a father or a mother to the motherless is probably the most admirable thing you can do. And I hear your passion in that too. And so they're those that are watching aren't looking at you like I am. And so I see it. It's like, hey, mamas. And so there's a little bit of that mama bear kind of coming out
very much.
And wanting to help and to assist. And so I know you're along for the ride as well.
It's been a ride.
As well. And you're pastoring a church full time in the midst of all this, but you're seeing these efforts come to fruition in your congregation as well.
Sure. As crazy as some of her ideas are when it comes to this, and I'm looking at her like, what are you doing now? The reality of it is every one of them is productive. They all multiply. It's good. It's difficult. It's not easy when you bring in children that don't know who you are and they've been through trauma and they start screaming and yelling at you and they're releasing so much in your home and you're processing, how do I handle this? You mentioned ability just a few moments ago. Quite often in the church culture, we think ability, that's something that I have in my life and I can go and I can do and conquer anything. And that's true, but it's difficult work. Mm-hmm. So if you like your home nice and neat and everything in order and nothing ever distracting you, and you want everything perfect, this is going to be a challenge for you. And I live that life. I am that guy that's in order, and it is a challenge for me, but it's not about me. And that's something I say to myself frequently. This is not about me. This is about the kingdom. This is about children that need love and parents. Our son that Carson that plays football. We have multiple kids in athletics, but he brings home these young boys, 8th, 9th, 10th graders, and they don't have dads.
Mm.
And the impact that you can have as a pastor and a leader, or just people, beyond even what we're talking about today, just opening your home to community. And on Father's Day, I get random texts from people that don't have dads to say Happy Father's Day. And my son says, my friends say they'll never have a dad like you have. I think of him as my dad. I think it really comes down for us just to be the hands and feet of Jesus, loving on community, foster care, adoption care, all of those things, but sense of just opening up your life and your home to the community that you're wanting pastors to have influence in. Actually opening up your home and opening up your life and having a bigger table and feeding the community and loving on people, you'll see an impact. I guarantee it.
So we're talking about adoption, in physical terms, I guess, but what you're describing is almost like spiritual adoption.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Where we're opening up our home to those, like you described, without dads. I was raised without a father.
Mm-hmm.
I had a stepfather, but he was completely unengaged. And so it was those spiritual men in the church that played a role in my life, and they knew it. I didn't know it because I was too young, but they knew what they were doing, and I'm indebted to them for that. And so what you're describing is you're really literally being a father to the fatherless.
That's right.
And opening up your home. And yes, it is discombobulating for your whole house.
Sure.
And I can imagine what your grocery bill is like, bringing a bunch of teenage boys over and eating all your
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you literally are feeding the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But you're also sowing.
Yes. Yes.
That is incredible. And I'll tell you to your face, man, that is a pastor's heart to love people, and regardless of the circumstances. And you're probably never going to get anything out of it, but I think that's the most admirable gift that you can give, is I'm going to sow a seed in a field that I will never harvest.
That's right.
And that's amazing. Well, so okay. So my last question to you guys, because we're kind of getting to the end of this, is I know that you are biting off a lot, but if we had churches in Georgia that said, I want to help Element Church in doing this, and we want to sow a seed in what you are doing, how do you have any needs, practical needs, or I know money is a wonderful gift, but if somebody was to say, hey, is there a service that we can provide for you, or anything along those lines, just any immediate needs that you can think of off the top of your
Absolutely. And we've not talked a lot about this yet, but we're in the process of just thinking, like, what can we have when somebody is, so for instance, we've had a few calls and kids show up at 2 a.m. and they haven't showered in days and they're just dirty and they're hungry. And all of a sudden we need things just to have some supplies on hand, just to have a baby bed, a crib, an extra mattress, just a room of supplies for these families that come in. And when we do these respite care and these nights, just to have funds available to be able to do more for these families in our community, in all of northern Georgia, that are supplying homes. There's always a need. There's a need for things. There's a need for supplies, and we'd love to be able to help supply some of those things.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Tracy, I know that there are going to be those that are wanting to reach out to you.
Yeah.
So when we finish, I want to get your contact information and share that, because I'm hoping that there will be a wave of interest expressed in this, and picking your brain on how to really express that in the local congregation. And so my last question is, how does your congregation as a whole respond and react to that?
I will tell you, we have, when you look in our children's department right now, close to 50% are kids in foster care. So we've had families in our church open up their homes and become foster parents. We have families right now in the process of becoming foster families. We have leadership in our church that have grown up in foster care. We have people that have been birth mothers or adopted mothers. And so it's pretty remarkable.
How about that? Okay.
It's an entire community.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Incredible. Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having
And
us.
proud of the incredible job you're doing at Element. Pastors, those that are watching, please take a moment to reach out to Tracy, and maybe there's a way that your church can be involved in this and minister to those that are in distress and in need. So we're praying for you. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.